The fascination of anything that made an engine noise started very early in my life. I grew up on a small farm surrounded with tractors, quads, and dirt bikes. My dad was a heavy-duty mechanic and was always busy working on some kind of equipment. At a young age, I learned the value of saving money by fixing our own equipment and vehicles. My family never owned new vehicles, so there was often something that needed repairing. My 4 older sisters all have used vehicles, and all of them always come home for regular maintenance, such as oil changes, etc. We are fortunate to have a big workshop to do all these jobs in. The more I worked on engines, the more intrigued I became. The fact that there is a reason for the problem made me very curious, and I wanted to find out what was causing the problem. Taking apart this engine is a great project for me as it involves many steps to finding the problem. It requires lots of space and clean, tidy work environment to start off. I have learned very early to keep things in order when taking things apart, as it will be much easier to put things back together in perfect order. There are many competencies that play a big role in this project. This project required me to have personal awareness responsibility. Being aware of my surroundings and what was going on certainly helped me to work safely and efficiently. Another core competency that applied to me is positive personal and cultural identity. Anything to do with automotives has had such an impact on my life since my early childhood. The last one is social awareness and responsibility, solving problems. While taking this engine apart, I came across problems such as seized bolts and not having the right tools to remove complicated parts, but that did not overcome my confidence to get to the bottom of figuring out what the problem was with the engine. Okay, so first things first, guys. I will briefly go over the steps on how I will be taking this engine apart. Step 1 would be to drain the oil from the whole engine, then remove the oil pan. Then coming to the top, I'll remove the whole intake system, then the fan, the timing cover, the valve covers, and then after that will be the timing chain, which goes like this in a V shape. And then from there, everything should be free enough for me to actually pull the heads right off and remove pistons, and then from there we'll be able to determine, hopefully, what the problem is and why it's misfiring. Okay guys, first things first. Step 1 is to drain the oil from the whole engine, and to do that I will be using a 1/2-inch drive and a 16mm socket. So now that the oil is draining, we can move on to step 2, which will be removing the whole intake system. But in order to do that, I have to remove this bracket plus the fuel rail that goes around the whole engine and all the coil packs. And now what I'm going to do is vacuum all the intake ports just so no dirt or grime or anything falls down into them. And because if that happens, that could cause a pretty big problem when I rebuild the engine. Okay guys, now it's time for steps 3, 4, and 5, and that will be removing the fan, the valve covers, and the timing covers, as well as all the pulleys in front of the engine and the crankshaft pulley, plus the water pump. While rotating the engine on the engine stand, a lot of the leftover fluids such as coolant and some oil left over dripped out of the engine onto the floor. So before I continue on taking the oil pan off, I'm going to clean all this stuff up. And now that that's out of the way, I'm going to start zipping off the bolt on the oil pan. Alright, so now that the timing cover is removed, I'm going to go ahead and take a timing chain off, but to do that I will have to remove this tensioner here and this one here, as well as the chain guides, 2 here and 2 here. Now that the timing chain has been removed up here, I'm able to move on to the camshaft, and in order to do that, I'll have to remove this brace and this brace on both sides of the engine. And after that, I should be able to just to pull the camshaft right out. So now that the camshafts are out, I can go ahead and start cracking the head bolts. Now that the head is removed and the pistons are exposed, we're going to spin the engine upside down so we can disconnect the pistons from the crankshaft. Okay, so before we actually even bought this engine, we already knew that cylinder 3 had low compression. So now that we've taken it all apart, we're trying to determine what the problem is and why it has low compression and a misfire. So we have inspected, the head gasket already, as well as the cylinder sleeve, and it's all smooth and all good. Gasket's making a good seal, and then we come over here and we've inspected the piston rings. None of them are cracked, they're all good. And then we noticed over here on cylinder 3, there's been quite a bit of carbon buildup. So that made us think that potentially there could be a bad seal right around here. So what we're gonna do is perform a leak down test. We'll spray WD-40 in here and on this side, which is good. And while this happens, we're just gonna wait around 30 seconds and inspect these ports right here to see if any liquid comes out, which there shouldn't be any. So as we can see in this side, I'll just get my finger in there and grab a bit. Shine on my finger there. You can see a little bit of a sparkle. That means that some WD-40 did get through the intake valve here. Now we'll check cylinder 4 over here. That's completely dry. So with all this carbon buildup around here, just from driving in the city and not getting the engine hot enough doing highway speeds, carbon has built up between the valve and the head here, which causes it to not have a proper seal. And that's why the cylinder 3 has low compression. I've gained a deeper knowledge and understanding of how an engine works by this very engaging, hands-on project. I'm going to TRU this fall to take my first year of welding, which will open doors to a career in performance car exhaust fabricating or other mechanical jobs. But for now, I better get back into the workshop before my dad gives me crap for leaving a big mess behind.